What does it really mean to be happy? Is it financial success, personal achievement, or the approval of others? Or is it something deeper, something more lasting? In a world filled with distractions, pressures, and expectations, finding true happiness seems more challenging than ever. But what if the answer has been around for thousands of years, hidden in plain sight within one of the most powerful philosophies ever created? The ancient Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, had a radically different view of happiness. They didn't see it as something to chase, something external to be acquired. Instead, they saw happiness as a byproduct of how we think, how we act, and how we respond to life's challenges. Their approach wasn't about temporary pleasure or avoiding discomfort. It was about mastering the mind, understanding what truly matters, and developing an inner strength that makes happiness a natural state rather than a fleeting feeling. So how can we apply these ancient principles to our modern lives? How can we cultivate a happiness that isn't dependent on circumstances, trends, or the opinions of others? The answer lies in timeless Stoic practices, simple yet powerful principles that, if applied correctly, can change everything. Today, we will uncover these principles, exploring how they can help you build a foundation for happiness that lasts, regardless of what life throws your way. Let's begin with the first key to true happiness: mastering your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your reality more than you realize. Every day, your mind is flooded with worries, fears, and self-doubt. You question whether you're good enough, whether you're on the right path, whether you're making the right decisions. And while doubt is natural, it doesn't have to control you. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, constantly reminded himself that the quality of his thoughts determined the quality of his life. If your mind is filled with negativity, your world will feel dark. If your mind is disciplined, focused, and clear, happiness follows naturally. Instead of letting doubt dictate your actions, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me? Is it making me stronger, wiser, or better? If the answer is no, then why give it power? You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your home and insult you. So why let negative thoughts do the same in your mind? Recognize that doubt is just a thought, not a reality. Train yourself to redirect your focus toward what truly matters. Now let's talk about something most people overlook: the power of reflection. Have you ever stopped to truly examine your life? Not just in passing thoughts, but in a deep, meaningful way. We get so caught up in our routines, distractions, and daily struggles that we rarely pause to ask, am I living the life I truly want? Stoicism teaches us that self-reflection is essential for happiness. It's not about dwelling on the past or regretting mistakes. It's about understanding yourself better, identifying what's important, and making adjustments that lead to a more fulfilling life. Imagine watching your life as if it were a movie. Would you be inspired by your own story, or would you feel like something is missing? This exercise isn't meant to be discouraging. It's meant to empower you. You are the author of your life, and every day is a chance to write a better chapter. Take time to reflect, not to criticize yourself, but to learn, grow, and take control of your journey. Another crucial element of happiness is focusing on what you can control. Life is unpredictable. No matter how much we plan, things will go wrong. People will disappoint us, situations will change, and setbacks will happen. But here's the truth. You have zero control over most of these things. The only thing you truly control is yourself, your thoughts, your actions, and your attitude. The more you focus on what's outside your control, the more powerless you feel. The more you focus on what's within your control, the stronger you become. Take Seneca, for example. He faced exile, betrayal, and hardships, yet he never let external circumstances dictate his inner peace. He focused on what he could control, his response, his mindset, and his ability to grow from adversity. Imagine how freeing it would be to stop worrying about things beyond your power and instead direct all your energy toward what you can change. This mindset doesn't just lead to happiness, it leads to resilience, peace, and unshakable confidence. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you: kindness. Many people think happiness is about receiving, getting more money, more recognition, or more success. But true happiness often comes from giving. There's a reason why acts of kindness, no matter how small, make us feel good. Holding the door for a stranger, offering a genuine compliment, or simply being present for someone who needs support. These actions create ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. The Stoics believed that we are all connected and that being kind isn't just good for others, it's good for us. Seneca said that wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. This doesn't mean you have to make grand gestures. It means recognizing that every interaction is an opportunity to uplift, inspire, and make the world a little better. And in doing so, you'll find that happiness naturally follows. But here's something even more important: the art of doing less, but doing it better. We live in a world that glorifies being busy. People wear exhaustion as a badge of honor, believing that the more they do, the more successful they'll be. But in reality, spreading yourself too thin often leads to burnout, frustration, and a feeling of emptiness. Stoicism teaches us that true fulfillment comes not from doing more, but from doing what truly matters with focus and intention. Marcus Aurelius believed in concentrating fully on the task at hand, giving it his best effort, and letting go of distractions. Imagine how much more fulfilling your life would be if you stopped chasing every opportunity and instead focused on what truly adds value. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things with excellence. And one of the most powerful tools for happiness: gratitude. Gratitude isn't just a feel-good concept. It's a life-changing practice. The more you focus on what you have, rather than what you lack, the more content you become. Think about it. How often do you take the simple things for granted? A warm bed, a good meal, a friend who listens. These are things many people long for, yet we often overlook them. The Stoics remind us that happiness doesn't come from getting more. It comes from appreciating what's already here. Epictetus said that a wise person does not grieve for what they do not have, but rejoices in what they do. If you train yourself to see life through the lens of gratitude, you'll realize that happiness isn't something distant. It's something you already possess. But one of the biggest barriers to happiness? Seeking external approval. Most people spend their lives trying to impress others, chasing validation, worrying about opinions, and fearing judgment. But the truth is, no matter what you do, someone will always have an opinion. The Stoics teach us that true freedom comes from detaching from the need for external validation. Your worth isn't determined by likes, comments, or applause. It's determined by your own values, actions, and integrity. Instead of asking, "What will people think?" ask, "Am I proud of who I am?" When you stop living for others and start living for yourself, happiness stops being something you chase and starts being something you naturally experience. Another crucial element in the pursuit of happiness is learning to embrace discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort at all costs, seeking only pleasure, ease, and convenience. But the Stoics understood that growth comes from challenges, not from comfort. Marcus Aurelius faced constant hardships as the ruler of Rome, yet he didn't complain or seek to escape his responsibilities. Instead, he viewed obstacles as opportunities to strengthen his character. Think about your own life. When have you grown the most? Was it during times of ease, or was it during times of struggle? Every challenge you face is an opportunity to develop resilience, patience, and wisdom. Instead of fearing difficulties, start viewing them as stepping stones toward a stronger, wiser version of yourself. One way to build this mindset is through voluntary discomfort, intentionally doing things that push you beyond your comfort zone. Seneca practiced this by occasionally sleeping on the floor and eating simple meals, even though he was wealthy. Why? Because by experiencing discomfort voluntarily, he trained himself to remain strong no matter what life threw his way. You don't have to go to extremes, but small acts, taking cold showers, skipping a meal, or challenging yourself in uncomfortable situations, can train your mind to handle adversity with ease. This brings us to another vital principle: detachment from material things. Society constantly tells us that happiness comes from acquiring more money, more possessions, more luxury. But the Stoics believed that true happiness comes from needing less. Epictetus was born into slavery, yet he achieved a level of inner peace that many wealthy people never find. He understood that material things can be taken away in an instant, but true happiness comes from within. Ask yourself, if you lost everything tomorrow, would you still be happy? It's a tough question, but an important one. The more you depend on external things for happiness, the more vulnerable you become. But if you learn to appreciate what you have without becoming attached to it, you gain a freedom that few people ever experience. You can still enjoy success and material comforts, but they won't define your happiness. At the core of all these ideas is one simple truth: happiness is a choice. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond. The Stoics believed that no event is inherently good or bad. It's our perception that makes it so. Two people can experience the exact same situation, yet one may suffer while the other remains at peace. The difference lies in mindset. Think about the last time you felt frustrated or unhappy. Was it the situation itself, or was it your reaction to it? By shifting your perspective, you can change your entire experience of life. Instead of seeing obstacles as problems, see them as opportunities. Instead of focusing on what's missing, focus on what's present. Instead of resisting reality, learn to accept it and make the most of it. One way to cultivate this mindset is through journaling. Marcus Aurelius kept a personal journal where he reflected on his thoughts, struggles, and lessons. He didn't write for others. He wrote for himself, using it as a tool to strengthen his mind. You can do the same. Writing down your thoughts helps you gain clarity, process emotions, and reinforce the wisdom you want to live by. And while reflection is essential, so is action. Stoicism isn't just about thinking differently, it's about living differently. The philosophy only works if you apply it to your daily life. Every day presents countless opportunities to practice these principles, to remain calm in adversity, to focus on what you can control, to express gratitude, to help others, and to strengthen your character. It's not about achieving perfection. Even the greatest Stoics struggled at times. But the goal is progress, not perfection. The more you apply these ideas, the more natural they become, and the more happiness becomes a way of being rather than a distant goal. Another powerful way to internalize these ideas is by practicing self-discipline. Many people believe that discipline is about restriction, about denying yourself pleasure. But in reality, discipline is freedom. It gives you control over your actions, your habits, and ultimately, your life. Without discipline, you're at the mercy of impulses, external influences, and fleeting emotions. With it, you can shape your future with intention. Imagine someone who wakes up every morning feeling sluggish, procrastinates on important tasks, and reacts emotionally to every inconvenience. Now imagine someone who wakes up early, follows a structured routine, and remains calm under pressure. Which of these two people do you think is happier in the long run? Which one feels more in control of their life? The difference isn't luck, it's discipline. Discipline is what allows you to take control of your emotions rather than being controlled by them. It's what enables you to push through discomfort when working toward a goal. It's what helps you maintain consistency when motivation fades. And the best part? Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. One way to cultivate discipline is by setting clear personal standards. Decide how you want to live, what kind of person you want to be, and what habits align with that vision. Then, act accordingly, regardless of how you feel in the moment. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up every day feeling motivated to lead an empire, but he acted in alignment with his duty nonetheless. That's the essence of discipline, doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. And yet, even the most disciplined people understand the importance of balance. Stoicism doesn't mean eliminating all pleasures from life. It's not about becoming emotionless or indifferent. It's about appreciating life fully, without becoming enslaved by desires. The difference between Stoic happiness and fleeting pleasure is that the former is stable, while the latter is temporary. Take gratitude, for example. It's one of the simplest yet most powerful tools for happiness. The human mind tends to focus on what's missing, on what could be better. But what if you flipped that perspective? What if instead of chasing the next thing, you truly appreciated what you already have? Imagine waking up every morning and reminding yourself of 3 things you're grateful for. It sounds simple, but over time, this practice rewires your brain to focus on abundance rather than lack. This shift in perspective extends to relationships as well. How often do we take people for granted? The Stoics remind us that nothing is guaranteed, not even the people we love. That's not meant to be a depressing thought, but a motivating one. It urges us to cherish every interaction, to be present with the people around us, and to express appreciation while we have the chance. Seneca spoke about this often. He advised his students to treat each day as if it were their last, not in a reckless way, but in a way that fosters deep appreciation for life. If today were your last day, how would you treat the people you care about? What would you say to them? What regrets would you avoid? Now, what's stopping you from living that way every day? These ideas bring us to another fundamental Stoic principle: impermanence. Nothing lasts forever, neither pleasure nor pain, neither success nor failure. Understanding this can bring immense peace. If you're going through a difficult time, remind yourself that it won't last forever. If you're experiencing joy, fully embrace it, knowing that change is inevitable. By accepting impermanence, you free yourself from attachment and learn to navigate life with grace. And speaking of navigating life, there's one final concept that ties everything together. The idea of focusing only on what you can control. This is, without a doubt, one of the most liberating principles in Stoicism. Think about how much energy people waste worrying about things beyond their control. What others think of them, the past, the future, random events, the behavior of strangers. The truth is, none of those things are up to you. The only thing you truly have control over is yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your responses. This principle is life-changing because it removes so much unnecessary stress. If something is outside of your control, why waste energy worrying about it? And if something is within your control, why not focus on taking action instead of worrying? This shift in mindset transforms the way you experience life. Instead of being tossed around by external events, you become anchored in your own decisions. Imagine two people stuck in traffic. One is fuming, honking their horn, complaining about how unfair it is that they're going to be late. The other is calm, listening to an audiobook, accepting the situation for what it is. The traffic is the same for both of them, but their experiences are completely different. Why? Because one is fighting against reality, while the other is accepting it and making the best of it. The same applies to criticism. If someone insults you, you have two choices. You can take it personally, get upset, and let it ruin your day. Or you can recognize that their words are simply a reflection of their own thoughts and not a definition of who you are. Epictetus famously said, "If someone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would have not mentioned these alone.'" This response demonstrates complete emotional control. Instead of being reactive, you stay in control of your own peace of mind. But what about ambition? Does focusing only on what you can control mean giving up on goals? Not at all. The Stoics were highly ambitious, but they understood that while effort is within our control, the outcome is not. Take a great athlete, for example. They train every day, push their limits, and do everything in their power to succeed. But in the end, winning a championship isn't entirely up to them. There are referees, competitors, and unpredictable circumstances. A Stoic mindset means giving your best while accepting that the final result is beyond your hands. This attitude applies to everything in life: career, relationships, health, personal growth. You can control how much effort you put into your work, but not whether your boss gives you a promotion. You can control how kind you are to others, but not how they treat you in return. You can control your fitness routine, but not every aspect of your health. The key is to direct your energy where it matters and let go of everything else. When you truly embrace this mindset, you become unshakable. Life throws obstacles your way, but instead of resisting them, you adapt. Instead of seeing problems as roadblocks, you see them as opportunities to grow. The Stoics had a phrase for this, amor fati, which means love of fate. It's not just about accepting what happens, but embracing it fully, seeing every challenge as a chance to develop strength and wisdom. And this brings us to another crucial concept: resilience. Life will test you. You will face setbacks, disappointments, and hardships. But what matters is not what happens to you. It's how you respond. The Stoics believed that adversity is the best training ground for character. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." When you go to the gym, you lift heavier weights to build muscle. In life, challenges serve the same purpose. They make you stronger. Think about a time when you faced a serious difficulty. Maybe you lost an opportunity, went through a tough breakup, or encountered an unexpected obstacle. At the time, it probably felt overwhelming. But looking back, didn't you grow from it? Didn't it make you wiser, tougher, more capable? This is the power of resilience. Once you recognize that struggles shape you into a stronger version of yourself, you stop seeing them as unfair punishments and start seeing them as stepping stones. This perspective changes everything. You stop fearing failure because you understand that setbacks are part of the process. You stop avoiding discomfort because you know that growth only happens outside your comfort zone. You stop feeling powerless because you realize that every challenge is a chance to become better. And speaking of growth, there's another Stoic idea that ties directly into this way of thinking, the idea that true growth comes from voluntary discomfort. The Stoics believe that if you want to build resilience, you must train yourself to endure challenges before life forces them upon you. This is why they practiced self-denial, exposing themselves to hardship in controlled ways, so that when real adversity struck, they were already prepared. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, used to periodically sleep on the floor and eat only the simplest food, even though he was wealthy. Why? To remind himself that he could endure discomfort. He would ask, "Is this the condition I so feared?" By voluntarily experiencing hardship, he removed the fear of it. If you're not afraid of losing comfort, nothing can control you. This practice is just as relevant today. Imagine someone who has always lived in complete comfort, never challenging themselves, never stepping outside their safe routine. The moment life throws something difficult at them, they panic. But contrast that with someone who regularly pushes their limits, who intentionally does hard things, whether through physical training, disciplined habits, or facing fears head-on. When challenges come, they don't crumble. They adapt. Think about cold showers, fasting, intense exercise, waking up early, public speaking. Any challenge that forces you to break free from ease. By doing these things voluntarily, you build the ability to handle discomfort. Then when life throws an unexpected challenge at you, it doesn't shake you as much because you've already trained yourself to handle adversity. This connects directly to another key Stoic principle, the power of perception. The way you interpret events determines how they affect you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is one of the most important ideas in Stoicism. Two people can go through the exact same situation, but experience it in completely different ways. One might see losing a job as a disaster, a personal failure, a reason to give up. The other might see it as an opportunity to start something new, to reinvent themselves, to grow. The situation is the same. The difference is the mindset. The Stoics trained themselves to see obstacles as opportunities. They had a phrase for this: "The obstacle is the way." If something blocks your path, it doesn't mean you've failed. It means you have a chance to find a new way forward, to learn something you wouldn't have otherwise. This mindset is incredibly powerful in everyday life. Imagine you're dealing with a difficult person, maybe a coworker who constantly criticizes you. Instead of getting frustrated, a Stoic would see this as an opportunity to practice patience. If you face a setback in a personal goal, instead of giving up, a Stoic would see it as a chance to improve their strategy. Every challenge contains a lesson. And speaking of challenges, one of the greatest sources of frustration in life comes from expectations. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that suffering often comes from expecting things to go a certain way, and then feeling disappointed when reality doesn't match those expectations. But what if instead of expecting things to be easy, you trained yourself to expect difficulties? This doesn't mean being negative, it means being prepared. If you go into a situation expecting obstacles, you won't be thrown off when they appear. Marcus Aurelius practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. He would mentally prepare for things to go wrong so that when they did, he wouldn't be surprised or upset. This practice is life-changing. If you expect that people will sometimes be rude, you won't take it personally when it happens. If you expect that projects will face delays, you won't get frustrated when they do. If you expect that life will challenge you, you'll be ready when it does. And when you combine this mindset with the idea of voluntary discomfort and the power of perception, you become unstoppable. You stop seeing obstacles as unfair burdens and start seeing them as part of the journey. You stop hoping for an easy life and start aiming for a strong mind. You stop relying on external circumstances for happiness and start building happiness from within. This brings us to another critical Stoic idea, one that ties everything together: the idea of controlling what is within your power and letting go of what is not. This might be one of the most liberating concepts in Stoicism, because so much of human frustration comes from trying to control things that are simply beyond our reach. Epictetus, another great Stoic thinker, taught that the key to peace lies in understanding the difference between what we can influence and what we cannot. He said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." This is incredibly simple, but also incredibly profound. Think about how much energy people waste worrying about things they have zero control over. What others think of them, the outcome of situations, whether or not things will go according to plan. But when you shift your focus entirely to what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your reactions, you suddenly become much more powerful. Imagine two people stuck in traffic. One is furious, honking the horn, complaining about how unfair it is. The other simply accepts the situation, using the time to listen to something valuable or reflect on their day. The traffic is the same for both, but one suffers while the other remains calm. The difference? One is resisting what he cannot change, while the other is controlling what he can. His response. Now think about a bigger example. Let's say someone loses an important business deal or an opportunity they worked hard for. The initial reaction might be anger, frustration, or regret. But a Stoic would ask, is this within my control? If the answer is no, then there's no reason to waste energy fighting it. If the answer is yes, then the next step is to take action instead of complaining. Either way, stress and frustration are unnecessary. This concept applies to relationships as well. You cannot control how others treat you. You cannot force someone to like you, respect you, or act the way you want. But you can control how you respond. You can choose to set boundaries, to walk away from negativity, to react with patience instead of anger. In today's world, where so many people feel anxious and overwhelmed, this principle is more valuable than ever. Social media, for example, constantly exposes us to things outside our control. Other people's opinions, curated images of success, global events that can feel overwhelming. But when you embrace the Stoic mindset, you realize that worrying about all these external things is pointless. Your power lies in how you interpret them and what you choose to do with your time and energy. This is why modern psychologists and even high-performance athletes use Stoic principles in their training. Because when you stop wasting energy on what you can't change, you free up all that mental power to focus on what actually matters. And this naturally leads to another core idea in Stoicism, one that might seem radical at first, but is incredibly freeing once you understand it. The idea that external events are neither good nor bad. It's our perception of them that gives them meaning. This concept is one of the most powerful lessons Stoicism offers. Imagine two people experiencing the exact same event. Perhaps they both lose their jobs on the same day. One person falls into despair, feeling like a failure, convinced that this is a disaster. The other sees it as an opportunity to explore something new, to grow, to build something better. The event itself is neutral. The difference is entirely in how each person interprets it. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that no matter what happens in life, you have the ability to define its meaning. Nothing can truly harm you unless you allow it to. Let's take a historical example. Admiral James Stockdale, a U.S. Navy officer, was shot down over Vietnam and spent 7 years as a prisoner of war. He was tortured, isolated, and faced extreme hardship. Yet he credited Stoicism with helping him survive. He refused to see himself as a victim. He focused only on what he could control: his thoughts, his attitude, his will to endure. Because of this mindset, he not only survived but emerged from captivity stronger than before. Now, you might not face a situation as extreme as Stockdale's, but the same principle applies to everyday life. Imagine you fail an important exam. You could see it as proof that you're not good enough, or you could see it as feedback, as a sign that you need to adjust your approach and try again. The failure itself is just a fact. The meaning you assign to it determines whether you grow from it or let it hold you back. This is true in relationships as well. If someone rejects you, it's easy to take it personally, to assume it means something negative about you. But in reality, it simply means that person wasn't the right fit for you. That's all. It doesn't define your worth. It doesn't say anything about your potential. It's just an event, neutral until you give it meaning. This way of thinking is incredibly liberating because it puts you in control. No one else has the power to dictate how you feel. No situation has the power to break you, unless you let it. And once you fully embrace this mindset, you become unshakable. This leads to another fundamental Stoic principle, one that might challenge the way you see adversity. But once you understand it, it can change your life forever. This principle is the idea that obstacles are not barriers, they are the way forward. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Instead of seeing challenges as roadblocks, the Stoics saw them as opportunities to grow, to develop resilience, and to become stronger versions of themselves. Think about a time in your life when something didn't go as planned. Maybe you lost a job, failed at something important, or faced a personal setback. In the moment, it probably felt like the worst thing that could have happened. But looking back, how often have those difficulties led to something better? Maybe losing that job pushed you to find a career that suited you more. Maybe a failure forced you to develop new skills that later helped you succeed. The challenge wasn't stopping you. It was shaping you. One of the greatest examples of this mindset comes from Thomas Edison. When his laboratory burned down, destroying years of work, he didn't fall into despair. Instead, he reportedly said, "Thank goodness all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start fresh." He saw the disaster as an opportunity rather than a tragedy. That's the essence of the Stoic mindset. Adversity isn't the end of the road, it's the path itself. The truth is, avoiding difficulty isn't the key to a good life. Strength, wisdom, and character are built through facing challenges, not avoiding them. Every time you encounter resistance, you're given a choice. See it as a dead end, or use it as a stepping stone. The Stoics would tell you to choose the latter because the obstacle is the way. And once you start viewing life through this lens, everything changes. Suddenly, setbacks aren't something to fear. They become something to embrace because they are the very things that will make you stronger. When you begin to see obstacles as opportunities, something remarkable happens. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances. Instead, you become the architect of your own growth. You realize that life isn't about waiting for things to go smoothly. It's about developing the strength to handle whatever comes your way. This shift in mindset is what separates those who feel stuck from those who thrive, even in difficult situations. But how do you train yourself to think this way? How do you turn challenges into fuel for personal growth? The Stoics believed that the key lies in perception. You can't always control external events, but you can control how you interpret them. Two people can go through the same experience. One sees it as a curse, while the other sees it as a chance to improve. The difference isn't in the event itself, but in how they choose to see it. Imagine two athletes training for the same competition. One complains about the difficulty, dreading every intense workout. The other welcomes the struggle, knowing that each session makes them stronger. Who do you think will perform better? The same principle applies to life. If you resist hardship, it will feel like suffering. If you embrace it, it becomes a source of power. This is why the Stoics placed such importance on developing mental resilience. They understood that emotions like frustration, anger, and fear often come from mistaken perceptions. If you believe something is unbearable, you'll suffer. But if you see it as something you can handle, your mind becomes unshakable. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that external events had no real power over his inner world. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that no matter what happens, your response is always within your control. You can either let difficulties break you, or you can use them to build a stronger version of yourself. And this is what separates those who let life control them from those who take control of their own destiny. This ability to take control of your response is what makes the difference between a life of frustration and a life of strength. Every moment presents a choice. Do you react emotionally and let external events dictate your state of mind? Or do you remain steady, using each challenge as a lesson in resilience? Think about a time when something didn't go your way. Maybe you faced rejection, failure, or an unexpected setback. In the moment, it may have felt overwhelming, as if everything was working against you. But looking back, was it really as devastating as it seemed? Often, we realize that the things we once saw as obstacles were actually moments of growth in disguise. They forced us to adapt, to think differently, and to develop skills we otherwise wouldn't have. This is why the Stoics trained themselves to welcome hardship. Instead of seeing adversity as something to avoid, they viewed it as a necessary part of life, one that could make them stronger if they approached it with the right mindset. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Just as lifting weights builds physical strength, facing challenges builds mental toughness. The more you practice, the more resilient you become. But resilience isn't just about enduring hardship. It's about transforming it. The Stoics understood that pain, failure, and struggle are unavoidable, but suffering is optional. It's the meaning you assign to events that determines whether they weaken you or make you stronger. If you tell yourself that a setback is proof that you're not good enough, you'll feel defeated. But if you see it as a stepping stone toward growth, it becomes fuel for progress. This perspective is what allowed historical figures like Marcus Aurelius to lead during times of crisis, Epictetus to overcome slavery and become one of the greatest philosophers, and countless others to turn hardship into an advantage. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They thrived in the face of difficulty, and you can do the same. The key is to develop an unshakable mindset, one that doesn't crumble when things get tough, but instead becomes sharper, more focused, and more determined. When you learn to do this, you stop fearing challenges. Instead, you start seeing them as opportunities to test yourself, to prove your strength, and to grow into the person you're capable of becoming. Once you start seeing challenges as opportunities rather than threats, something incredible happens. You stop feeling powerless. You realize that while you may not control every event in your life, you always control your response, and that response determines everything. Imagine facing a difficult situation. Maybe you lose a job, a relationship ends, or an important project fails. Most people see these moments as devastating, but a Stoic sees them as a test. They ask themselves, what can I learn from this? How can I turn this setback into something useful? This shift in perspective is what separates those who crumble under pressure from those who rise above it. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, lived by a simple but powerful principle. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacle itself is the path forward. If you're facing rejection, maybe it's pushing you to develop better skills. If you're experiencing failure, maybe it's forcing you to rethink your strategy. If something feels impossible, maybe it's teaching you patience and perseverance. The problem isn't the challenge itself. The problem is how you perceive it. Most people resist difficulty because they believe life should be easy. But the Stoics knew that struggle is part of life. Expecting things to be easy only leads to frustration. But when you accept that challenges are natural and necessary, you stop wasting energy complaining and start focusing on solutions. Think about the people you admire, those who have achieved great things, overcome hardship, or built something meaningful. None of them had an easy path. They all faced obstacles, failures, and moments of doubt. But what set them apart was their ability to keep moving forward despite adversity. They didn't let circumstances define them. They chose how to respond. And that's what you can do, too. Instead of seeing setbacks as signals to stop, see them as instructions to adapt. Instead of feeling discouraged by difficulty, recognize it as a sign that you're growing. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to build resilience, sharpen your mind, and develop the kind of inner strength that no external event can shake. The Stoics trained for this daily. They practiced voluntary discomfort, exposing themselves to small hardships so that they would be ready for bigger ones. They reminded themselves that nothing lasts forever. Not pain, not pleasure, not even life itself. This perspective gave them a sense of calm, even in the face of chaos. They understood that the only real power anyone has is over their own mind. When you develop this mindset, challenges lose their power to intimidate you. Instead of feeling trapped by difficulties, you begin to welcome them as opportunities for growth. This shift in perspective doesn't mean you won't face hardship. It means hardship won't control you. And when you reach this point, you gain an incredible sense of freedom. Think about it. Most of the stress people experience comes from resisting reality. They wish things were different. They dwell on what they can't change, and they let external events dictate their emotions. But the Stoics understood something fundamental. Peace doesn't come from changing the world. It comes from changing how you see it. The same situation that makes one person panic might make another person more determined. The difference isn't the situation itself. It's the mindset of the person facing it. This is why training your mind is essential. If you wait until a crisis happens to try to develop resilience, you'll struggle. But if you make it a habit to practice self-discipline, gratitude, and perspective every day, you'll be prepared for anything. You won't need ideal conditions to stay calm. You'll have the ability to handle whatever comes your way. Consider how the Stoics practiced this in their daily lives. They reminded themselves every morning that things might not go as planned. They prepared mentally for setbacks, not to be pessimistic, but to be ready. By expecting obstacles, they avoided frustration when those obstacles appeared. And instead of complaining, they focused on what they could control: their thoughts, their actions, and their character. This practice isn't just for ancient philosophers. It's for anyone who wants to live a stronger, calmer, and more intentional life. Every day, you have opportunities to apply Stoic principles. When someone insults you, you can practice emotional control. When something goes wrong, you can practice adaptability. When you feel fear, you can practice courage. These moments are not interruptions to life. They are life. They are the training ground where you develop the mindset that will carry you through anything. But here's the key. None of this works if you only think about it. You have to apply it. Stoicism isn't about reading philosophy and then reacting to life the same way you always have. It's about making small, deliberate changes to how you respond to challenges every single day. It's about catching yourself in moments of frustration and shifting your perspective. It's about seeing setbacks as tests of your ability to stay calm and focused. This kind of mindset takes time to build, but every step you take brings you closer to the person you want to become. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, handling difficulties with strength and wisdom will feel automatic. You won't have to remind yourself to stay composed. You just will. And that's when you realize the true power of Stoicism. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but with each challenge you face, you refine your ability to respond with clarity instead of emotion. You start noticing the change when things that once would have made you angry, anxious, or discouraged no longer have the same effect. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause. You assess the situation. You remind yourself that your energy is best spent on what you can control, not on what you can't. Think about how much mental energy people waste every day, worrying about things beyond their influence. They stress over other people's opinions. They complain about circumstances they can't change, and they get frustrated by small inconveniences. But what if instead of wasting energy on those things, you redirected it? What if, instead of reacting emotionally, you responded with discipline? That's the power of Stoicism. It helps you stop giving power to things that don't deserve it. One of the most effective ways to build this discipline is by practicing what the Stoics called negative visualization. Instead of assuming everything will go perfectly, they prepared their minds for challenges in advance. They would imagine losing what they valued, not to become fearful, but to strengthen their gratitude and resilience. If you start your day expecting that at some point you might face delays, criticism, or unexpected problems, you won't be caught off guard when they happen. You'll be ready. This isn't about being pessimistic, it's about being prepared. A person who expects the road to be smooth gets frustrated by every bump. A person who knows the road will have obstacles isn't surprised when they appear. They adjust, they adapt, and they keep moving forward. This is the kind of mindset that gives you an advantage in life. While others waste time complaining, you stay focused. While others get distracted by frustration, you keep making progress. And this applies to everything. If you're working toward a goal, expect setbacks. If you're trying to improve yourself, expect resistance. If you're dealing with people, expect misunderstandings. But instead of seeing these as problems, see them as opportunities. Each challenge is a chance to practice patience, to strengthen your focus, and to prove to yourself that you are not easily shaken. Imagine how different your life would be if you stopped reacting emotionally to things you can't control. If instead of getting angry at traffic, you used the time to listen to something valuable. If instead of getting offended by criticism, you used it to improve. If instead of fearing change, you embraced it as a necessary part of growth. This is what Stoicism trains you to do, to shift your mindset so that every experience, no matter how difficult, becomes a tool for your development. But theory alone isn't enough. To truly benefit from these ideas, you have to put them into practice daily. You have to train yourself to pause before reacting. You have to remind yourself that you don't have to be ruled by emotions. You have to take responsibility for your perspective, no matter the circumstances. And the more you do this, the more control you gain. Not over the world, but over yourself. And that's where true power lies. And that's where true power lies. Not in controlling the world around you, but in mastering yourself. Every situation, no matter how challenging, becomes an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And the best part? This is something anyone can do. It doesn't require talent, luck, or special circumstances. It just requires a decision to stop being controlled by what happens and start controlling how you respond. So as you move forward, remember this. You are always in control of your mindset. No matter what happens, you get to decide how you see it. You get to decide whether it weakens you or strengthens you. You get to decide whether it holds you back or pushes you forward. That power is always yours. And if you found value in this, imagine how much more there is to discover. There's a whole world of wisdom that can help you build the life you want, and I'll be here to share it with you. So if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss out on the lessons that can transform the way you think, act, and live. This is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep applying these principles to your life. Because the more you do, the more unstoppable you become. See you in the next video.